we're talking about toe curls here. This is just a nice way to strengthen the muscles in your foot. We can actually see Jake's foot here has a really nice arch. But if he were wanting to work on his arch and his ability to control those muscles, he could do what we call a towel curl. If he had a towel underneath, it would be very obvious, but it works without a towel. So he's really just pretending that he's scrunching up a towel underneath his foot, and you can see all of those muscles right through the sock. You can see that arch is starting to pull up, and he's really engaging all of those muscles. This exercise is called calf raises. This is a really great way to work on your arch. You really need to start where you're capable of doing it. So we can do it two-footed, we can do it one-footed, we can do it with support. So when I have somebody starting with calf raises, I'm going to have them holding on to the counter in their kitchen or the wall, and I'm going to be having them do both feet at the same time. So just lifting those heels off of the ground. We're working really hard to keep our feet in line. I really don't want the foot to turn out like this. It needs to be straight in line, and you're just going up and down. Now, we don't want to do more of these at a time than you're effective. So if you're starting to roll your ankles out, then, thank you, Jake, then you're done. You're clearly not capable yet of doing it correctly that many times. So get more support, do less of them, but nice up and down. Once you're doing really well, you can try this with one foot. And again, maybe starting with support and then decreasing. So if you can do it without any support, you really have good control of your ankle. Awesome. With stretching, again, the heel cord is frequently our issue because it's tight. It doesn't allow the range of motion for the foot, and the bones get caught up, and actually it can be really painful for a lot of people. That is part of what frequently causes plantar fasciitis, and actually quite a few other conditions that we look at in the foot, ankle, and knee. So when we're thinking about the heel cord length, a short heel cord, that's going to be this right here, is going to make it so that the foot cannot come up. Again, that dorsiflexion movement. To stretch it, we want to be against a wall, like we're pushing the wall over. We'll have 1 foot forward and 1 foot back. Great. Now, the back foot, it's really important. We're mainly stretching the gastrocnemius muscle. We want this knee to be generally straight, not hyperextended, but not bent. Our heel is going to be on the ground and our foot straight forward, and that's going to allow a nice stretch. Now, when we talk about stretching, we start at 10 to 20 seconds and we can build up to 2 minutes. The idea is that it never causes pain, but you should feel that kind of stretching feeling. But if it's described as pain by you, then it's too hard, which means we have to decrease it. So you notice Jake modeling there stood a little more upright, so he was getting less stretch. He could also go from a position, go ahead and pull back, Jake.
Oh, pull back.
So that's going to give you more of a stretch, and if that's too much, then just bringing the foot forward and doing the same stretch is going to give you a lesser stretch because your angle is less.
Gotcha.
So again, this is like 20 seconds to begin with, shouldn't cause pain. You can build up to 2 minutes. This is something that you can do every day. And actually, most people probably could do some stretching. We want to do both legs. Usually I do them in sets of 2, so 20 seconds on the right, 20 seconds on the left, 20 seconds on the right, 20 seconds on the left. When we're talking about balance, what we're really looking for is there are 2 ways to perform balance with your foot. There's what we call a stepping reaction. So if Jake was stepping on one foot and he lost his balance, he'd immediately step with the other. That's a stepping reaction, but it doesn't really make you work your muscles very hard in your ankle. So in this balance section, what we're talking about is ways to make those small muscles in your leg and foot to really perform so that when you use them for skating or walking, that they're ready, they know what to do. So when your feet are wide apart, we call that a wide base of support. You're very well balanced between the two. It's easy to balance, but again, you're not working very hard. So if you bring your feet very close together, if that's difficult for you, that's where you want to start. The next position is one foot in front of the other, like you're on a tight wire. We call that tandem stance. And that does make you kind of balance side to side. You're noticing when Jake does it, we see just a little bit of movement in the ankle there where he's starting to have to work a little bit. If that's fairly easy for you, then you can go to one leg. And so again, with one leg, we're noticing that kind of flutter back and forth. That's what we want to see. If you're immediately going to a stepping and not seeing that flutter, then it's too hard for you and you need to go back to one of those earlier positions. If this is fairly easy for you, we have two more ways to make it more difficult. Because we use our vestibular system, our vision, and our proprioceptive systems to balance, we can kind of mess with each one of those individually and make things harder. So Jake's standing on one foot, he's still using his vision and he's still using his vestibular system. So if I were to ask him to close his eyes, that would become significantly more difficult. You notice right now his eyes are closed and we're seeing more flutter or wobble from his leg. So that's perfect. That's a great position for him to work in. Now we have one more way. Go ahead and open your eyes, Jake.
Okay.
If he were to step on something that's compliant, this is a foam that's designed to be compliant. It makes his body's ability to feel the floor, that's proprioception, more difficult. And so again, you're seeing much more ankle reaction from Jake. And actually we can see his whole body and his arms are flailing a little bit too. So this is a great way for him to balance. Again, if this was too difficult for him in this position with one foot, we could go back to the tandem stance. He could have one foot in front of the other and he could try it that way. He could also just go narrow stance if that was where his body needed to practice his balance. So you can see even in the narrow stance, he is getting a little bit more movement than he got otherwise. This is the final section where we talk about what you can do for yourself to increase your ankle's ability to control itself for skating. We've talked about strengthening, we've talked about range of motion, we've talked about balance. You can actually start with support and decrease that support as you go. So if you have poor arches, you could certainly just get an off-the-shelf, non-custom foot orthoses that you can put into your shoe. This works great because now your flat foot doesn't have all of that space where it's got to control with those muscles. It's now more in the position it should be, and it has to do a little work with the muscles, not a lot, which is a really great way to start. I use these all the time, and I actually have pretty good balance, but I do have kind of a flat foot. When we're talking about ankle support, a lot of the skates out there have this really nice, almost ski boot like plastic that comes all the way up. That makes it really hard to bend sideways, which if you have poor ankle support is awesome. They usually have some kind of joint that allows forward and backward movement. Some allow more movement forward and backward than others, but what a good skate like this is going to have is that plastic support way up. And that is a really great way to start because again, you're not doing as much control with your own ankle. As you become a better skater, speed skaters, they use a really low ankle. This is a different one. You can see it's got some support, but it's got way less than the last pair. And then the racers, they're gonna have something that's like a running shoe level that's really low. And again, that requires your ankle to work much harder, but when you're ready for that, you definitely can use it. So again, starting with more support is really important, and working your way down in your level of support when your ankle is ready for it, I think is a really good way to do it. So when we talked about balance, we talked about different bases of support. Obviously, when you're on two legs, you have a much bigger base than you do when you're on one, and inline skates make a really narrow in-line position where it challenges your balance even more. So when you're standing on one foot on inline skates, you are really balancing. Now, we talk about in biomechanics that momentum is part of your movement strategies. In skating, momentum is really important. So standing on one skate on carpet and not moving is really quite difficult. And this is actually an excellent exercise. Our final exercise or discussion part of strengthening, we want to talk about skates because that's what you're planning on doing, is using your skates. So we have Jake here with skates, And we want to really think when we're balancing on skates and we're working on strengthening, we want to move into that momentum and the dynamic gliding. So Jake's got several exercises he wants to show us where we're starting more stationary and working on the control to glide and then moving into a dynamic glide.
So what we want to do is we want to get you into a 90 position. So assuming you're standing in straight position here, toes are forward, just take your inside heel, just kind of bring it into the center line of your body and bring it in the center line of your body. Boom, you're already at a 90. So from here, I want you to lock in your right leg and I want you to allow your weight to start gliding out. Now don't go too far. This actually works a lot of core muscles and all your hip muscles and hip flexors. So just go out what you feel comfortable and then bring it back and glide it back together, okay? So not too far. So you just want to lock that and glide it back together. And it's really important that you don't allow this foot to start moving when this one's going. So this is really good control, just learning about the whole trunk and how to get it nice. That's what's great also about the 90. You don't really have to go anywhere else. From there, it's actually how you push it. It's how you get going. So that's why this is such a great foundational position, just being able to glide out and then bring it back. And if you want just a fun exercise and you think you need to spend money on a bunch of machines, get some inline skates, do this right here. Just go out as far as you can go, lean on that quad, bring it all the way back together, do it again on your other side, bring it all the way back up. Oh, or you can go all the way forward and start working these ankles, bring it back and forth. Oh yeah. Great exercises. It's one of the wonderful things about inline skates.
What I really like about what Jake was just showing us where he's gliding out, go ahead and do it again, Jake, is we can really see some isolated movement per leg. So he's got really nice control of his ankle. When the right foot is going out, he's really trying to control so his knee is over his toes. And on his left leg, he's really trying to keep that leg in line as well. So you can see like it's pretty straight, even though the whole leg is being positioned sideways. He's got nice inline position for both legs respectively. So just as a recap, we've been talking about the ankle today, and that question, when I'm looking out at the floor and I see people skating who looks like their ankle is going to break in half because their leg comes down and their foot is so angulated. Today's discussion should have given you an idea of what to do about that angulation if you're seeing some of that in yourself. And really the idea is to answer the question, why is it angulated? What can I do about it? And how is that going to change my overall performance? So first, it should give you the potential to decrease pain. Long term, when you're using your joints incorrectly, it causes pain. So if you're seeing some of that positioning in yourself, fixing it potentially is going to stave off some of those long-term issues that people have with overuse injuries. The other thing is it's going to make you a more efficient skater. So when we see people who have those really angulated position, they really have to push sideways. They can't get a nice forward glide. They're pushing sideways quickly back and forth, but they're not getting the nice glide that they will if they're able to use their ankles appropriately.
All right, well, thanks for coming to the Skate with Jake channel. I'm so grateful to my friend and great skater here, Chris Beadle, for all of his great information that he just shared with us today, and also looking forward to continuing this series and continuing bringing you this great information to help you be able to skate safely and have such a good time. And one last thing I just want to point out is I'm grateful that I'm taller than him right now. Standing on my skates. And so that just helps me out, and I just having fun. Thanks so much for coming, and we love you guys and hope to have us keep going forward. Oh yeah, and like, subscribe, comment, anything else you want to see, you let me know and I'll give it to you.